The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
So hello and welcome once again to another episode of the Star Sport podcast. I'm your host Matthew Hurley and I'm joined today as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose Credit Union, choose local, choose community. Now later on in the show we will be joined by Barry O'Donovan and Guilherme Alencar from the Honor Jiu-Jitsu club in Bantry after they won 3 gold medals and 1 bronze at a recent European Championships in Portugal. But first we'll look at some big stories that hit the headlines in West Cork sport in recent days, and no better place to start it, but no worse place, no matter what way you look at it, Kieran. Then look at the Cork footballers. They lost against Down in the Allianz Football League round 2 game, 2-15 to Cork, 1-19 to Down. A late 2-pointer from Pat Haven for Down won the game. Even though Cork could have won it at the end with a Brian O'Driscoll 2-pointed effort, but it just drifted wide and Cork lost on the road to Down. So it means they're 4th in the league at the moment, 2 points on the board. Not necessarily a bad thing having 2 points on the board after 2 games, Kieran, but certainly having been 10 points up after about 31 minutes in the game, 7 points up at half time. Does this feel like 2 points dropped?
It feels like an opportunity missed for Cork, to be quite honest, Matthew. Like you said, 10 points up at one stage, 7 points up at half time, then to come away with nothing from the game. It's probably easy to understand John Cleary's mood afterwards, kind of they'll feel that this is one that got away. This is a game that Cork could and should have won, and all of a sudden, if we're sitting here, we're talking about Cork with 4 points from possible 4, kind of joint top of the table. The outlook would be far more optimistic. The results kind of dictate the mood as such, and it's disappointing when Cork footballers lose a game like this. But there's been a lot of positives to the first 2 games. Yet I'm just thinking back to last week's chat, Matthew, when we were talking about this game, and we said that Cork need to consistently beat the teams that are in and around them, and they had that opportunity in Newry on Sunday, and they just didn't take it. And really, for Cork to make that next step, that's what they have to do. Just have to beat the teams at the same level and beat them consistently, especially if Cork want to get up to Division 1. So it is a setback in that regard in terms of the promotion push. Leaves a little margin for error in the weeks ahead. If you're looking at maybe probably 10 points to get in and around promotion, with 5 games left, that means Cork will have to win 4 of those 5 games, and there's still a couple of tricky trips to Ulster counties to come in the weeks ahead. So not the ideal result. Like, you're up to yourself, Matthew. You're one of the hardy souls who made the trip up to Newry on Sunday. What were the positives first that you had in your mind coming away from the game?
I suppose really, like, across the 2 games, we're taking our goal chances, unlike last year. Like, I think John Cleary mentioned that at the end of the Low game in the scheme last year in the Championship. A main problem for Cork has been taking goal chances. They've scored now 4 goals in 2 games, and 2 very well taken goals in Newry on Sunday, I must say, from Chris O'Jones in the first half and Sean McDonald when he belted one into the back of the net in the second half. And when you look at it overall, I know it was a loss, but there was a stage in the game in the 64th minute where Paul Walsh, and I had the privilege to look back at it again on TG Carr. I seen it live and I was thinking, okay, maybe you could give it free at some stage and maybe it wouldn't. I see the clip again on TG Carr where Paul Walsh was penalised for barging Eugene Brannigan from Down. And looking at the clip again, I thought it was very, very harsh. And John Cleary thought it was harsh in the post-match interview as well. Down went up the other end, and within 10 to 15 seconds, the ball's in the back of the net, and suddenly the whole complexion of the game has changed. Like, Cork were 4 points up at the time of Paul Walsh bearing in Down on goal and going to take a shot off. Suddenly, they're only a point up, and then Pat Haver scores the 2-pointer at the end. So it's just those little things, I suppose. And Cleary did mention in the post-match interview, no matter how well you're performing, I suppose, even midway through the game, once a team gets a run of you with these new rules with 2-pointers, like Down got 3 2-pointers at the start of the second half, and that kind of got them going to get the comeback in this one. And it's kind of, like Cleary was saying, it's kind of hard to stop the momentum after that. But maybe a few bits of concerning things, like Cork only took 23 shots on Sunday against Down. I think it was only 9 in the second half compared to Down's 17 in the same period of time, which wasn't a great start for Cork. Maybe they need to take more shots to actually have a chance of winning these games. But then again, it's not all bad. Only a point loss. They didn't play that badly. It was just that moment, really, in the 64 minutes, in my opinion, anyway, in which the game kind of swung.
What do you make of the 2-pointer so far? Like, you've seen the first couple of Cork games, and you mentioned there, I think Down got two pointers right at the start of the second half. Suddenly a 7-point lead was down to 3, and then like you said there, they got the 2-pointer towards the end. What's your first thoughts on the 2-pointer? Like, it's like John Cleary said afterwards, kind of, if a team gets running you, if you get a couple of 2-pointers now, it makes a big difference in the game.
Oh, absolutely, it does, and yeah, to a certain extent, in terms of watching the game as a neutral, I think the 2-pointer is a brilliant incentive to come in because it encourages long kicking, and you could see the forwards that are excelling across the whole country in the Allianz League in the first few weeks. Maybe a few kind of tweaks that most people will actually make to it is 2-pointers being banned from a free, which Pat Haver actually took to win it for Down on Sunday. But then again, the counter argument to that is, wouldn't defenders then foul outside the arc to give the forward a free, and then like any free outside the arc will be worth 1 point then. So there's arguments 2 and 4. I'm in favour of the 2-pointer because it just encourages good shooting, good scoring, and it just makes the game all around better. And Cork are really excelling in the 2-pointers. They scored 5. It was kind of a weird situation in the first half, actually. They scored 1 goal, 5 2-pointers, and 1 1-pointer. The 1 1-pointer came from Mo McSweeney, and then Roy Maguire got 1. I think Mark Cronin got 2 in the first half. Brian O'Driscoll got 1, and Sean McDonald, the goal scorer in the second half, got 1 as well. So Cork do have the players to kick 2-pointers, and as well as that, in terms of the game overall, I think it's only good for the game that a 2-pointer is there, in fairness. But what's your opinion on the 2-pointer yourself, Kieran? Like, you look at Pat Haver scored the 2-pointer from a free at the end, then there's the counter argument. Defenders would foul outside the arc if free is only worth 1 point, wherever it is on the pitch. So it's kind of like you'd be damned if you do, damned if you don't, or that kind of situation, don't you think?
Yeah, I have to say, I do like the 2-pointers. It just adds something different to the game. You know, it take a bit of getting used to, but all of a sudden, like, a lead isn't safe now. Like, a 7-point lead becomes a 3-point lead after just kind of two pointers. You know, it's just it'll take a while to get used to in terms of, let's say, the momentum shifts in game, and especially for players themselves. You know, but if you've good kind of long range shooters, you know, like what a weapon to have now. You know, I think the Cork get 5 2-pointers in the first half on against Down. You know, kind of it just shows there, like, kind of all of a sudden, like, that's 5 points in the old currency, but 10 points in the kind of new money. So it's going to definitely add an extra element to the game. And we saw the worth of it from, let's say, from a Down point of view in the second half. They were able to eat into the Cork lead with a couple of 2-pointers. So it's kind of I do like it as an addition. But I was looking there as well, Matthew, at the fixtures coming up for Cork. Okay, Westmeath next at home in a couple of weeks' time. That's one where you would think that Cork will get full points there. But then it looks like, is it away to Monaghan and then home to Roscommon? So it's like back-to-back games against the top 2 in the league, you know, and they're going to be defining games straight away. And we're talking about Cork now having very little room for error. Then after that, Cork go home to Louth and away to Cavan. So it's just, all of a sudden, like, Cork have to beat Westmeath. It's as simple as, you know, kind of, if Cork are to have any realistic ambitions of promotion, have to beat Westmeath, because you're going into a tough trip to Monaghan, then a home game against Roscommon, you know, so you want at least 4 points on the board before then. So kind of that's why I think it's disappointing that Cork missed that opportunity on Sunday, because we should be talking here about a Cork team with 4 points on the board and then possibly 6 after the next round before you play your Monaghans and your Roscommons. But suddenly could just be 4 points on the board, and that's dependent on Cork beating Westmeath.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they beat Westmeath in 2 weeks' time. And to be honest, as Kieran rightly said there, it's probably a must-win for the Cork footballers to beat a Westmeath team that are on 0 points themselves after 2 games as well. So it is crucial that Cork get the win the next day out. But then again, there could be a situation actually where Cork beat Westmeath, which would be expected. Monaghan are actually playing Roscommon in round 3. So take for positives to be in for a sec. If Roscommon beat Monaghan, and that's at Dr. Hyde Park, then Monaghan and Cork will both be on 4 points going into that game in Monaghan. And as far as I know, that game is actually on in Iskeen and not Clonus. Obviously, Cork have a bad record there, as shown last year against Louth. So, is that a bit of a positive if those things happen? Or, like, I think a disaster for Cork really would be a draw between Roscommon and Monaghan, because both sides would have points on the board and they'd be ahead of Cork no matter what happens against Westmeath.
Yeah, you're looking at those Monaghan and Roscommon games, and Cork would have to win at least one of them. Kind of if we're talking about Cork wanting to get to Division 1, wanting to push for promotion, have to beat. Like, that's we're talking about the no room for error. Like, you have to be winning at least one of those 2 games. Kind of like heading up to Monaghan, or heading up to Iskeen. It's not going to be easy. Kind of we saw it like kind of those long road trips, those kind of long weekends away, like we saw the weekend just gone. So. First things first, get over Westmeath, and then, like you said, hopefully kind of that either a Roscommon or a Monaghan win, either or at this stage, just to open that door for Cork to have, I suppose, get their destiny back in their own hands, but to do that, like I said, have to look after Westmeath first.
They have to, yeah, and that is a crucial game for Cork. We'll discuss that game more in depth in next week's podcast, of course. Moving on to the Hurling League and Cork and Limerick, it was billed as a classic. And to be honest, like, in terms of scraps all over the field and in terms of passion, it probably was a classic. In terms of general hurling, it wasn't really. It was a 116 apiece draw in Super Value Park Kiev on Saturday. It was full of intensity, full of vigour and all that. Maybe not the quality to match it, but you have to pay close attention as well. The weather conditions were absolutely atrocious on Saturday evening as well for the players. So it was actually kind of a miracle that they produced somewhat of a good game in that game. So a draw against Limerick, I don't know how both sides would feel about this. Cork were 2 points down going to the last few minutes. Darfit's giving its 2 frees to level it at the end. The start of the game, Cork were 7 points to 2 up, and then William O'Donoghue gets a goal for Limerick and the whole complexion of the game changes. So what's your overall thoughts of this game, Kieran?
It's almost like that classic league game, kind of it's so early in the campaign. Like, it's like the bigger battles, the bigger wars are to come later on in the years to push into the Munster Championship and hopefully the All-Ireland series as well. I think from a Cork perspective, and Pat Ryan was saying it after, I think he's just pleased that, I suppose, the resilience that Cork showed to kind of dig out a draw there when it looked like the Limerick were going to take the 2 points on offer. And Pat Ryan did say afterwards that this was a game that possibly Cork could have lost in previous years, but they showed resilience there and character to kind of fight for that draw and still kind of undefeated after 2 games. So it's like Cork have a weekend off this weekend, and we're sitting now looking at Cork here on 3 points, second in the table, tip of 100% record. Then it's Cork, and then it's Galway and Kilkenny after that. So I think Pat Ryan would be reasonably pleased with the start of the league, undefeated. Good win against Wexford, eked out a draw against a Limerick team that, I suppose, there were 7 minutes of injury time. They probably thought that they'd hold out, and then it was later than that again that Cork got the equaliser. But I think Pat Ryan will be kind of reasonably happy, like I said, with the character that Cork showed, and it leaves Cork in a good place for the rest of the league.
It does, definitely. And I suppose 2 weeks off now, from what I was reading. They have a bye week, the way the fixtures fell next week. Then it's a break week, which is all football week in 2 weeks' time, obviously, when the footballers play Westmeath. So Cork won't be in action until 3 weeks' time. And I suppose with the injuries that Cork got, I know Power, it's just been announced before we came on air that he's probably going to be out for the rest of 2025, which is a huge blow, in fairness to him, obviously, a brilliant under-20 player, but has been struck down by injuries. Conor Lehan also got an injury on Saturday evening against Limerick. So does that give a bit of time? I know Sean O'Donoghue and Rob Downey have to recover as well. Does that give a bit of time for the players to recover before the next game in 3 weeks' time?
Yeah, I suppose it's all dependent on the nature of the injury. Like you said there, Padraig Power is looking at he'll be out for the season. Hopefully the other lads that you'll see him back in a couple of weeks. A 3-week kind of break right now, not the worst thing in the world. You're after kind of back-to-back league games to kind of kickstart the league, and okay, you want to build a bit of momentum, but you need to be very careful too in these condensed seasons that you don't have fellas picking up injury after injury. So we're after 2 games in 8 or 9 days. So the break now, just get back to a block of training before you hit the next kind of tranche of games. So I think it's all you'd hope trending upwards for the Cork hurlers this year, kind of obviously putting injuries to one side. See, just on Tuesday night, Cork named a hurling panel, 37-man strong panel. Had you any surprises there? I noticed straight away that Conor Cahalane not included in the Cork hurling panel for this year. His younger brother Jack is, and that got me thinking: would John Cleary pick up the phone to his nephew to say, "Come along here to the footballers"? We've seen Conor Cahalane with the Castlehaven footballers over the last couple of years. He's a good footballer as well as a hurler. But even looking at the panel itself, what's your own thoughts? Is that a panel, Matthew, that's good enough to bring home the top prizes this year?
I think it genuinely is. I'd be upset in a way for Ben Cunningham. I thought he probably deserved a place in the panel because he's been brilliant over the last few years for St Finbarrs, for underage in Cork, and maybe this year was the time to step up for him. But for him to miss out on the panel, it's a huge miss. What I noticed as well, obviously Conor Cahalane, as he mentioned, despite him being named on the bench against Wexford, he's not named on the panel, which is quite interesting. The same for Kilworth's Owen Carey as well, which was quite interesting to see his name omitted from the panel. There's new guys in, Derbert Healy from this school I really like. Daniel Hogan, obviously up close to him with SARS, is a very, very good player, and hopefully he does well with the Cork team this year. I think Darragh Sullivan for Ballinhassig is another new name onto the panel. So Pat Ryan is building kind of a panel in terms of the players coming off the bench, but it's relatively the same as last year. So I think it could win an All-Ireland. We'll have to see what happens in the next few weeks. Obviously Power's a big loss now. He was named on the original panel. He's now injured. Who's going to come in for him? Possibly Ben Cunningham if he's fit enough. So we'll have to see in the next few weeks. But it is an interesting enough panel. It's definitely good enough to win the All-Ireland, but we'll have to see how Cork develop in the league and then onto the Munster Championship before we could talk about the All-Ireland campaign. The other inter-county team in action over last weekend was the Cork Ladies Footballers. They lost against Galway in Tuam 2-8 to 12 points. That was Joe Carroll's first loss as Cork senior ladies football manager. They face Tipperary next in Fethard this Sunday at 2 p.m. as well. So to be fair, Ciara, Galway were All-Ireland finalists last year. It was always going to be tough to go away up to Tuam for Cork. So it's kind of a situation where Cork probably have to win the rest of their games though, in terms of getting automatic promotion from Division 2. But a decent enough performance up at Tuam, only losing by 2 points against, obviously, as I mentioned, the All-Ireland finalists.
Yeah, this is always going to be the toughest game for the Cork ladies on paper. You're talking about a Galway team like Cork that were relegated from Division 1 last year, and this Galway team bounced back last year and got to the All-Ireland final where they were beaten by Kerry. So it's obviously a quality outfit, and for Cork to go away to Tuam in just a second league game where I suppose it's like you said, it's Joe Carroll's. Joe Carroll, his first season in charge. This is only his second game in charge, so that was a big test. Big test so early on, but I think Cork will come away with a lot of positives from it. Galway got off to a great start. They had a penalty in the first minute. They were leading 1-5 to 3 points at one stage of the first half, but Cork actually came back to lead in the second half before Galway got their second goal late on that clinched the game. And even at that, I think Laura O'Mahony had a goal chance that was saved as well. So Cork will take a lot of positives from this game. They've given a couple of debuts in the first few games. The likes of Siobhan Callanan from Clonakilty has now started in defence, both against Westmeath and against Galway. Even if you're looking from a kind of a score and attacking threat, Katie Quirk got 9 points against Galway, and 7 were from frees. But Libby Coppinger, who got 2 goals against Westmeath in the first game, she was actually rested for the game against Galway because she picked up a knock, a dead leg in that game against Westmeath. So that was one of Cork's main scoring threats who wasn't there. So I think Cork are kind of finding their way into the season. They're getting players back, some of the more established players. We saw Melissa Duggan play her first game of the league. She started a cornerback against Galway. Erica O'Shea came off the bench early in the second half for Cork as well, and she has the potential to be a big player this year. So it's all kind of moving in the right direction for the Cork ladies. Face Tipperary, like you said, now on Sunday, Matthew, and that is a must-win game for Cork, because Joe Carroll has made no secret of saying that promotion back to Division 1 is one of his targets, and so I think Tipperary have lost both their games so far. So Cork will make that short trip up to tip on Sunday, kind of knowing that another win will just push them right up the table. And it's actually the second in 3 away games in a row, which is quite unusual in a league campaign to face 3 away trips in a row. Kind of obviously Galway last weekend. It's Tipperary this weekend, and I think it's Monaghan the weekend after, though I could be wrong on that, but it's or 2 weeks after, sorry. So it's an important game for the Cork ladies to win, but it's been an encouraging start so far.
It has been, to be fair, when you look at the performances from Joe Carroll, definitely coming into the job, and it was always going to be a difficult game on Sunday, but hopefully they could get back up in the horse against Tipperary this weekend. Just switch on to rugby before we get on to our interview this week, and obviously Ireland beat England in the Six Nations 27 points to 22, and Jack Crowley, West Cork's finest, obviously came on in this game and made a huge impact against England to lead Ireland in many ways to victory on Saturday. They face Scotland in Murrayfield on Sunday at 3 p.m. And I think the question that we had last week here about the Sam Prendergast and Jack Crowley kind of debate has rolled on into this game as well. And is there an argument this is going to roll on for the rest of the Six Nations campaign?
Yeah, this could be the narrative when it kind of runs almost parallel to Ireland's Six Nations title bid. Who starts? Is it Crowley? Is it Prendergast? Prendergast obviously got the nod against England last weekend, and he I think the word to describe him was solid. He definitely wasn't spectacular, but he was solid. You could a huge step up for Sam Prendergast, and to be so fair to him, he's 20 years of age, and you're put into like a home Six Nations game against England at a Pac de Viva. Like that's a tough coliseum to put in a young fella into, So for Prendergast will have a lot better days in the Ireland jersey. Just even like I said, he was solid, just that spectacular. But Crowley came on in the 58th minute and he just oozed confidence. It's like, I think it speaks a lot about Jack Crowley, I suppose, the player, but also that kind of, and he's spoken about it himself before, that mental resilience that he has. He would have been disappointed not to get the nod to start, but he didn't sulk, he didn't let the shoulders slump. He just took it all in his stride, and when he came on in the 58th minute, he had a point to prove, and he did that in the next 22 minutes. Like he was just immense. Even the England manager Steve Borthwick said it afterwards that he felt the Ireland change at number 10 was significant. So when you have the opposition manager even saying it, like, as in, Jesus, this Jack Crowley fella made a big difference. But he's kicking from the tee, he's kicking off the hand, he's just general play. Like he just looked so confident and so calm and composed, and he was just what Ireland needed right now. So it's just interesting now because, like you said, Matthew, looking ahead to the Scotland game on Sunday, the Ireland team has been named on Friday at 2:00. We're asking the same question as we did in last week's podcast: who's going to start this week? Personally, I think not that it has to be Crowley, but Crowley should get the nod here because kind of he was put in a situation where he needed to perform against England when he came on. He did that, kind of he showed what he could do, and I think it's right that he's rewarded now and that he gets to start against Scotland, because if we're going back to the kind of November internationals, it's like Prendergast was rewarded for his good performances and he got to start against Australia. So I think if fair is fair, Crowley should get the nod here because his performance dictated that he was that good on Saturday. Sorry, so we'll have to wait till Friday to see what happens. But I think it was just the performance that Jack Crowley needed to deliver, and it says a lot about the men that he was able to pull it out of the drawer.
I suppose it's a testament to both number 10s fighting for the jersey. I've seen some people in the media actually saying this is a good point, to be fair. This competition kind of brings out the best out of both Sam Prendergast and Jack Crowley in a way. So we'll have to see what happens in the Six Nations. Should be very, very interesting to see who starts first of all this weekend against Scotland, and then potentially in that crunch game against France later on in the campaign in the Aviva. We'll have to see what happens in that. But Ireland are off to a winning start after the win against England on Saturday. They face Scotland on Sunday at 3 p.m. in Murrayfield, as I mentioned before. We'll take a quick break now, and after the break, we'll be talking to Bantry Jiu-Jitsu.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
So welcome back to the podcast, and we are going to be joined by Barry O'Donovan, who founded Bantry Jiu-Jitsu, the Honor Club in Bantry Jiu-Jitsu in January 2023, and we'll be also joined by Guilherme Alencar, who is a coach at Bantry Jiu-Jitsu as well. They went to European Championships recently in Portugal, where they won 3 gold medals. The gold medal winners were Kawan Azeredo, Juliana, Taparica, and Mariana, Ribeiro, and there was a bronze medal won by Karel Bubnik, Karel is also a local with the Bantry club as well. So it is brilliant to see that them medals come back to Bantry Jiu-Jitsu. And as well as that, they were in a Dublin Open championship last weekend, where Kawan Azeredo and Juan Barcellos won gold medals in that competition as well. Back home, the club also does an outreach program where they do self-defense and jiu-jitsu classes in schools around West Cork. Barry, as I mentioned, founded the club in January 2023. Along the way, he brought Guilherme on board to coach the fighters in the Bantry For Honor Jiu-Jitsu club. And I spoke to them earlier this week, and here they are now. Delighted to be joined on the Star Sport podcast now by Barry O'Donovan and Guilherme from the Bantry Jiu-Jitsu club, after some brilliant events over the last few weeks in terms of the European Championship and other events as well. So yeah, lads, how are things with yourselves? I guess the club's at an all-time high now with the medals going to Bantry.
Big time, yeah. We're on a high at the moment, yeah. We've had a bunch of fighters that just fought in the European Championship last week in Portugal. We've had a team that came over from Brazil, from Rio de Janeiro, from the favelas. They're like hand-picked fighters that got sponsored by CEDA College to come over here and fight in the European tournament. And Guilherme kind of met them last year and hit it off with them and offered them a place to stay and a place to train. So they've been here for the last 6 weeks, training at our gym, pretty much training 3 times a day. And they headed over to Portugal with 2 fighters from our gym. And they pretty much cleaned up, didn't they?
Yeah. It was great. In Portugal, we had 3 gold medals and 1 bronze medal from there. One this guy who got a bronze medal with Carlos. He's from our gym. Since we start, he's training with us, so he's training for 2 years in total. He stopped many times, but he still went. He could bring for us our first European medals adult. So that was a brilliant result for us. The new gym, only 2 years, and we have a big
results, I suppose.
Result, yeah.
We've had a bunch of medals in the kids tournament before, a lot of silver medals, but we've never had a medal in the adult division before, so this is the first for us.
That's the first for us, so it was amazing. And now we are planning to go in more events. March, we have a Pan Championship in America. So we are planning to go to there with 3 fighters from Bantry. So we are preparing now, start a new schedule training for getting ready there and try bring that time 2 or 3 medals again.
It sounds like you're having the time of your lives at the moment with the success in the club at the moment, and getting the medals back from Portugal is an absolutely brilliant achievement. But going back to the very start of the Bantry Jiu-Jitsu club, I cross over to you, Barry, first. How did the idea come about in getting Jiu-Jitsu to rise up in Bantry?
So I've got 4 daughters. 3 of them were training in America in a gym called Team Link in Framingham, Massachusetts. And my daughters all competed and they were all pretty successful. And we moved back to Ireland about 2 years ago. And I was just researching, jiu-jitsu clubs near Bantry, and there was nothing. So I was pretty disappointed, thinking, all right, if I move back, I'm going to have to drive up to Cork City or something 2 or 3 nights a week, or else just forget about jiu-jitsu, which that was heartbreaking for me. It was the one thing that was kind of upsetting me about moving back to Ireland. Everything else was okay, but that one thing was driving me crazy. I couldn't figure out what to do. So my brother actually owns a nightclub in Bantry, and I just asked him, listen, is there any chance we could do a bit of jiu-jitsu on the dance floor in the nightclub? That's pretty much how it started. So I asked my coach in America, he's a world champion at blue belt. His name is Hudson Lee. He's a black belt now, but when he won the world title, he was a blue belt. And I just said, this is a bit crazy, but do you know anybody that would come and move to Bantry for a couple of months and just try coaching us and see if it takes off? But I kind of said, listen, it has to be somebody really good, because all the people that are going to be coming to the gym are all my friends' kids and my own kids, and don't just pick up some black belt off the street and send them over. It has to be somebody that somebody that we trust. So it took him a couple of months, but eventually he found Guilherme, who's his cousin, who's a brown belt and a super coach. He actually coached Hudson to win the world title at the time. And Guilherme came over and tried it out with his friend Pericles, who's another black belt. And the two guys came over for 3 months to try things out. We offered free classes for 3 months. And boom, here we are 2 years later with 70 or 80 members, loads of All-Ireland champions, tons of European silver medals, bronze medals. And now, finally, an adult from the gym has won a bronze medal as well, which is huge for us. So, onwards and upwards.
And for yourself, Guilherme, how did you get into jiu-jitsu in the first place? What made you what made you fall so in love with the sport?
So I always in my life, I liked all kind of sports. And my cousin Hudson, I start training because of him. He started training when he was a child, and he invited me to train most of the times in his garage. And I was only doing sparring with him. I didn't know about jiu-jitsu. Only try to get him better to go for competitions. And then we started a project in Brazil in the church. And I was be part in that church and start training properly jiu-jitsu there when I was 17 years old. So since then, I never stopped sometimes because of some hurts, that stuff. But I had a contact with jiu-jitsu since I started. And now I'm here coaching jiu-jitsu. That was one dream because, like I tell to Hudson, everyone, I feel I'm better coach than fighter. So I prefer teaching and go coaching to everyone than I prefer going fighting. And after this, when Hudson tell me, I have one project, maybe you open the gym in Ireland. Do you want to go? I say, yeah, could, maybe. Yeah, but I need you next month. And I say, wow, really? Yeah. And then I brought my tickets like 30 days. Say, I'm going to Ireland. I'll buy to my family, to everyone, and move to Ireland. Since then, I'm here for 2 years already.
And for yourself, Barry, because you were kind of the mastermind in getting the club going in Bantry, what do you think is so important in having jiu-jitsu a staple of West Cork sport?
I suppose, look, there's tons of sports here. There's hurling, football, rugby, basketball, all those sports. But for me, jiu-jitsu, especially for me, because I don't have any sons, and for me, my daughters, to be able to look after themselves it's been very important in how I've brought them up, So I just figured that them being able to mind themselves was on top of my list as far as sports went. Like, they all play rugby and soccer and that kind of stuff, but I won't say I pushed them into jiu-jitsu, but I just wanted them to do it as young kids, and they just all loved it, and they all love competing, and they've all won medals. In America, they won the Boston Open in NAGA, which is North American Grappling Association. 2 of them won that, and another one of the girls got a bronze medal in that as well. So they loved it. And for me, if they love doing it, I'm going to let them keep doing it. And as far as self-defense, I think, I've done a lot of boxing, MMA, a lot of different types of martial arts. And for me, jiu-jitsu is the best for self-defense. It's way over anything else I've ever done. It blows my mind. So, to try and make a living out of it on top of that is just a dream. So just hoping to keep going, keep growing. We're moving, hopefully, into a bigger space as well, probably by the summer. So it's going from strength to strength and really picking up momentum now. And we've joined with George Santos Jiu-Jitsu. And like I said, at the ADCC in Dublin on Saturday, George Santos's gym was #1 gym in Ireland. So we're glad to be part of that as well.
And for yourself, Guilherme, what's the difference for yourself between actually fighting in jiu-jitsu as the fighter, obviously, and coaching people to fight?
Jesus, that's a big question, because I like to compete as well, but I know I'm not that great fighter. I think to be a fighter, you have to have a good mental. You have to be ready for that. And I think always when I fight, I'm so nervous before the fight. I feel that pressure over me, and then I think because of that, I'm not that great fighter. And then instead of to be a coach, for me, it's better because I have a good eyes for specific positions, and then I can see only one thing there, like nobody see, and I tell, let's go doing this and this, and then the guys flow better. So I think that difference for me make me a better coach than a better fighter.
He did win the All-Ireland and brown belt all the same though, so he's not bad either.
Yeah. I got some medals when I arrived here, because only to show to everyone, if I can, everybody can, of course. And now I try training the guys better to be better than me. If I get the 2 golds and 1 silver here, I expect that the guys getting more and more and more. So my students now, if you get Joshua O'Connor, for example, he's 13 years old. He have like 14 medals already in 2 years training jiu-jitsu. So that's amazing for me. I prefer being that part than competing.
And for yourself, Barry, like to have such a successful coach like the man beside you, Guilherme, to have so many medals coming back to your club, to have so much success in European championships, and now at adult level, did you expect the club to have so much success at this stage of its development?
I did really, yeah. I kind of knew, because I trained myself as well. I was training in America, and I won the Boston Open at blue belt before I moved back here. And I wouldn't consider myself a great fighter or anything, but it's just the coaching. They're world class. Hudson and his buddy Hector. Hector was also a blue belt world champion. They both won in Japan. I think they won multiple world champions. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, in Brazil and World Naga in America.
Yeah, so like you're talking world, the best in the world. Like, so mix that with the West Cork kind of toughness, and mix in the size of the lads around here and how strong they are, and rugby players and everything else. I kind of knew a little bit of training is going to take these guys to a serious level, like, and we're seeing it already. Like, fellas are coming into the gym and their first night, we're like, this guy's a monster, like, just a little bit of training from these guys in jiu-jitsu and they're already world class, like, so I kind of had a feeling it was going to be successful. Yeah.
So I'm not believing that like great successful in that short time. Of course, I didn't know nothing about Ireland and about the people who live here. But when I came, that was one of my dream. Can go to the big events, can be part of the big team. And when I moved to here, I was planning this for 5 years. We arrived there in 5 years, bring our first big medal in the Wonders Grand Slam event in 5 years. So in the first year, we brought 9 medals for the European kids. Wonders the best kids event in the world. And this year, our second year, after 2 years, our first adult medal is a bronze. So that for me was very fast because we have another results. For example, we got a second place in Dublin Open teenagers. We got a second place in whole Cork event. The whole County Cork here was second place by team. We got a 4th place in the whole island by team events, only with like 10 guys fighting. So to see how big the results for us in that short time, for me, was very quickly. I not expected that result for 2 years. I was waiting for that in 5 years.
A bit more ambitious than you, obviously.
Yeah.
And in terms of the medal winners in the European Championships recently in Portugal, could you tell me a bit about each medalist and their strengths and their weaknesses and what makes them such great fighters?
So the Brazilians, not only make questions, if I understand, if what makes them great fighters.
Mm-hmm.
So the Brazilian guys, I believe, because they came from a hard part we have in Brazil, so it's tough to live there in Rio de Janeiro, the favelas. And I think the choice for them, it's like, or they make it going good, or they don't have where to go. That's the one thing. So they selling sweets in the streets, the beats to pay their tickets and come here for that opportunity. And then I think when they need that, they grab with the whole strength and try to do the best. That's one of the things. For us here, our first medal, Carlos brings. Carlos is a warrior. He whole his life, he tells us history always trying to compete, doing something, working, got hurt. And then he was training, try getting prepared for that. So I think that kind of things, when you have to do something, or when you are like, have that warrior blood, like I found here in many people here in Ireland, so that make you champion. I think that's the way to go. And of course, and then I have to tell something good for me, when you have a good coach, it help you to arrive there, because sometimes you can see great fighters, but they kind of lose because their minds or the coaches don't have that feeling about it. Thanks God, I was here, and Michel, the Brazilian black belt, who was here, he's like clinical. He was training everybody in details. Like even me, I'm learning a lot with that details things. He showed, no, it's wrong. And then I was looking, what is wrong? No, you are moving your hand like this. You should move like this. That's difference, and then can bring more champions for us now.
And like you've had so much success now as a club. Is there any other future ambitions for the club to achieve? I know you've achieved so much already, but is there more hopes for the future of Bantry Jiu-Jitsu?
Oh yeah, a lot. This year, I'm planning 2 more big events for this year. One will be in America now in March, Pan Championship. It's like kind of 3rd biggest event in the world, so it's bigger than the European. So that's the one event we are going, hopefully 3 or 4 fighters from Bantry. And May, we have the European Kids. I'm trying to go there, bring the gold that time. We'll be in Rome in May. And in November, the World Pro in Abu Dhabi. A World Championship, one of the biggest events in the world, will be in Abu Dhabi. And we'll try to go there with 5 or 6 fighters from Bantry. That's for this year. Next year, we have 2 more World Championships in America, Brasileiro in Brazil. So we have other big events to go. But for this year, Pan, European Kids, and World Pro for kids and adults in Abu Dhabi.
That's some serious hopes, and the way Guilherme explained the future hopes of the club there, Barry, it just epitomises how the club has risen in just over a year, to be honest.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I suppose another part of why it's been so successful is Guilherme has classes every night of the week. You know, a lot of gyms do 1 night a week or 2 nights a week. But with us, if you want to train at 6 o'clock in the morning, Guilherme will be down there at 5:30 with the gym open. And he does one-on-one classes if you want to do that. It's not just, we're not doing it just for the money, we're doing it to make champions, basically. And he's doing everything he can, like every hour of the day, it's jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu. He's doing fitness classes. We have a little gym in the upstairs part, where you can come in and do fitness, strength and conditioning and all that stuff with him. He's excellent at that as well. So we've got fighters that are doing 14 training sessions a week. They're training 6 o'clock in the morning. They might do 2 classes in the afternoon, class at night. You can train as much as you want with us, basically. We're full time. It's not just an hour or 2 a week. It's, if you want to train, be a champion, you can do it with us. And that's been the case from the very start. Obviously we were losing money for a long time at the start, doing free classes for 3 months and then doing, 3 classes per night, 5 nights a week, with 1 or 2 students coming to the classes. But those students were getting almost one-on-one training from a world-class coach. So they just got so good so quick that the first time we went to a tournament up in Cork, the Cork City Circuit, I think we came second overall of all the gyms that entered that tournament. And that's against like the big gyms like SBG, which is Conor McGregor, John Kavanagh's gym, FM Cork, MMA Cork, all these massive gyms with 300 or 400 students. We went up and blitzed the first competition. We were blown away. Yeah. So I knew that day that this is something special, like this is different.
And if anybody, if you want to, if you want more members, or if you want people to know more about Bantry Jiu-Jitsu, where can people find you on social media or on websites?
Okay, we have our Instagram for Honor Ireland. You can follow us there. Have the website, the forhonorie.com. I think I have to make sure about the website, but the main way will be in the Instagram for Honor Ireland. You can text me there asking about the class. You can see the many videos. We have videos of our classes, photos of tournaments and all that kind of stuff. The Instagram will be the easier way to find us.
All along, we focused much more on the jiu-jitsu side of it than the marketing side of it. Like one of the guys from the gym came to us after about a year and he goes like, do you guys even have a website yet? And I said, no, because we've got enough students for now. We don't want to go crazy and have 100 kids screaming, running around in circles. Like, that's not what we're about. So he's like, I'll make you a little website if you want. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But, we're not there yet. We're still concentrating on the guys that we have, giving them the best service that we can and making sure that they get, the best training without flooding classes with tons and tons of students, That's not where we're at. We do have a beginner's class. Every night there's a beginner's class from 5 to 6, and then the advanced kids classes from 6 to 7, and then the adult classes from 7 to 8. And then after that, we, kickboxing classes and Muay Thai classes and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, we haven't yet started trying to market it very well, Just we're happy enough with the people that we have right now. Growing slowly is by word of mouth. That's kind of what we want to do,
Well, there's a load of medals going back to your club. You did so well in the European Championships. The success is it's breeding so far in Bantry Jiu-Jitsu. Guilherme, Barry, thanks for coming on to the Star Sport podcast today. Best wishes for everything in your club in the next year or so. And West Cork Jiu-Jitsu is on a high.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
So it is that time of the week again, Kieran, where we look at what's in this Thursday's Southern Star. So what is in store for our readers this week?
There is a treat in store for readers. We were busy over the bank holiday match, making sure that Thursday's Southern Star Sport is packed. So obviously the Cork intercounty teams are covered with the Cork hurlers, the footballers, and the the Cork ladies footballers. And also I caught up with Carbery Rangers manager Seamus Hayes to have a chat about the new Gaelic football rules and to get his thoughts on how they're going to impact club level and what difference they'll make to club football. So that's an interesting read there from Seamus Hayes. Also, the Carbery Under-21 Football Championships, they throw in this weekend with a packed schedule of games across Saturday and Sunday. And Matthew, you were talking to Ivan Kingston, the Bantry Blues Under-21 manager, because Bantry are the reigning Under-21A Carbery champions, and they kick off their title defence against Carbery Rangers. So it's just that Bantry story is a great story. They were Under-21B champions the season before, Under-21A champions last year, and they have some of their big guns available this year, the likes of Marco O'Sullivan there. So it's going to be a very interesting Under-21A championship in Carbery. Also, the Mahunas had their victory dinner dance last weekend. Matthew, you were talking to Pat Lucy, the selector, about their decision to move up to Division 7 of the County Hurling League and how that's going to benefit them. I've caught up with TJ Ryan from Skibbereen Rowing Club, who was recently named the Rowing Ireland Umpire of the Year, just to find out a small bit more about what that award means and what an umpire actually does in rowing, which is quite interesting. We have 3 pages of West Cork soccer in Thursday's Southern Star. So Joe McCarthy was at Drina Rangers Premier Division win against Dunmanway Town for us. I caught up with Steve Bowden, the Bay Rovers manager, to talk about that young Bay Rovers team who's going quite well in the championship. They sit 5th there now. It's a very young team, but it's just an interesting story about Steve's philosophy of football and how they want to play football. Also, the Beamish Cup, we're down to the last 8. The draw for the quarterfinals and semi-finals is on Thursday night, so we have the latest on that. And also, my last word column this week is on Jack Crowley and how it took him just 22 minutes to turn heads and remind us all just how good he is. So there's that and a lot more in Thursday's Southern Star Sport.
Packed as usual, and as usual in all weeks. If you are further afield or can't make it to the shops, you could subscribe to the Southern Star e-paper and get the Southern Star on your laptop, tablet or phone. Just go to www.southernstar.ie/subscribe, enter your details and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. As always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back again next week. Until then, take care.